9th. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a very special episode of the Not Your Average Mark Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, the Tutorial Boss Guapo. With me are two of the best minds in the business. We've got the one and only Rick Elsie and the man himself, Mike Caldwell, Mr. BCW. What's happening?
How's everybody
doing? Any better, I'd be twins.
There you go. So you might be wondering to yourself, the layout looks a little different here, Guapo. What's going on here? Well, for one, we're not live. And it's Halloween season, it's spooky season, and Mike and myself, we have to do our part in scaring all the kiddies. So we are working on Thursdays, so we're recording this on a Tuesday night that brings about something very special. Special to me, special to Mike, special to Rick. Mike, as the man for BCW, I'm going to let you talk about it.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
No, this is your show. No, we got together with some people with the CW network and Mr. Sidney Motes. He's actually one of our followers on here. And he got us hooked up with some really good TV spots. So we got with Guapo and the guy ended up making this really cool commercial, and we sent it over, and now we have it airing on NXT.
It has, as of tonight, it is currently 8:07 p.m. and it is aired twice already on NXT. So be watching for that. Be looking for the BCW commercial. Of course, draw the line, November 9th, Levelland, Texas. It's kind of a cool deal, I got to say. So
I'm really excited to see what comes of it.
I am too. I'm interested to see how this all turns out. Now, I talked about there being a different format tonight because this is not your normal, Not Your Average Mark Wrestling Podcast. No. This is the Not Your Average Roundtable. I've got a few discussion topics here that we're gonna break down and give our thoughts on, and have all sorts of fun doing it. And I'm gonna start with this. Would you guys agree, as someone who's been in the business? Mikey, you've been a wrestler. Promoter. Rick, you're a promoter. You're a booker. I've seen you in the ring a couple times, knock some people out. As somebody who's involved in this business, would you agree that people watch wrestling to escape things, whether it be reality or work or whatever it is?
Yes, I think all entertainment in some form or fashion is an escape. And wrestling is absolutely an escape, because I don't believe there's anybody out there that is under the impression that this is not a scripted piece of business. And if you know that it's not completely on the up and up as a sport, yet you're choosing to flip over, you're choosing to pay your money, you obviously are looking for an escape into entertainment.
And see, I agree with that. Just last night, myself, my grandson, we're chilling out, we're watching Raw and having a great time. Raw starts up, here comes mommy. She comes out, gives a great promo, calls out Raquel, calls out Liv. Everything's great. She looks to the Tron, waiting for Liv to come out. And what do I hear? It's Tiffy time. Why? I watch Raw, so I don't have to hear that. Why is she in my escape?
Because she can be.
This is fair.
We're headed towards Survivor Series, and everybody knows that that's where we start meshing the brands.
It is, and I make a joke, I make a funny about the whole Tiffy time thing to bring that point to light. We have entered the season where we're going to start seeing Raw personnel on SmackDown personnel on Raw, to start building up the Raw versus SmackDown matches for Survivor Series in the end of November. It's kind of an every year thing. It's happening a little differently this time. Normally there's some, advertisement of it. This person's going to be on SmackDown and this person's going to be on Raw. They're doing it a little different this time, and I like it. And I kind of want to discuss how we're moving into Survivor Series. And Mike, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts about the way we're going about things?
Well, right now we're having to take a small detour from going to Survivor Series into Crown Jewel. And Crown Jewel is where we're going to have the both of the champions on either side, male and female. They're going to be wrestling for whatever Saudi Arabian championship belt that is that they have on that.
That is the most
And
god awful looking belt.
well, there's very few belts that I've seen that have a green in it that actually look decent.
Fair.
You also have to take into account it's the Saudi kingdom and it's going to be gaudy.
I'm just saying it's called Crown Jewel instead of that huge gaudy belt. A crown maybe with
That would interfere with King of the Ring, though.
Please don't even put that in the universe. My God, we don't need somebody changing their gimmick to saying there's some sort of Saudi royalty. No, bad guapo. Don't do that.
What they already released the two guys that were from the area. I mean, actually all of them. Jinder Mahal's no longer there, and Deshair's gone, Mansoor's gone, Mustafa Ali's gone. They're all gone. So I mean, at this point, there's not even anyone to really represent the area. So
I mean, that's fair. So as we get people going in, for instance, we had Rhea Ripley and Jey Uso both show up on SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
We had Tiffany Stratton show up on Raw, and the idea of teaming Rhea and Stratton, that's a whole nother concept. But as it is opposed to the way we've done things before, live on SmackDown tonight, Roman Reigns, live on Raw tonight, Cody Rhodes. Do you like it better the way they're just showing up? Show up, raise hell, leave. And we'll go to you, Mike.
I'm a fan of advertising what you have so you have something that people are looking forward to. Surprises are not bad, but surprises tend to not make you not do anything for you at the right now. I mean, with the attendance of the crowds at WWE, with the way the ratings are working and everything else, they're making money hand over fist. So right now, that's one of the things they're not necessarily considering. It's more of a, hey, let's just throw this together and try to make it as interesting as we possibly can.
I get that. Rick, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm not a fan of the brand split to begin with. I've always thought the brand split was ridiculous. I don't like two world titles. I've never enjoyed any of that. I like the fact that if you got a 60-person roster and you've got 4 to 5 hours of television a week, I think that your top stories should always come first. I think your champions should be minimal on television. You should have to pay to go see those champions. I think that you book the show in a way that you have rotation of the rest of your roster. Everyone should get some type of representation. It doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't have to be twice a week. But I think the idea of these people are here and these people are here only works for so long until it inevitably comes time that for storyline purposes, you need somebody to cross over here or cross over there. And there's only so many times you can say, oh, well, the GMs got together. I mean, why are we even doing it? I mean, I think you pigeonhole yourself, you paint yourself into a corner creatively by even doing the brand split. And I hate the idea that there's 9 titles running around the promotion when technically you really only need 5. So I hate it. I absolutely hate it. There should be one women's top champion, one men's top champion, one women's middle champion, one men's middle champion, one set of tag champions for the women, one set of tag champions for the men, and that's it. That's it. That's all you need. And otherwise, what's going to stop you from eventually look? Remember, we used to have Night of Champions, and there was 9 matches, and they were all title matches. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like, what are you doing? It's like there's nobody else can get on the card unless you're holding a belt. It's like I've never understood it. So I don't. Surprises are surprises, and yeah, advertise who you can advertise to try and pop your rating. But I've never enjoyed the brand split. I don't like it. I just rather everybody just put everybody where you need them.
No, and I can definitely see that point. I personally feel like the brand split is good to an extent. Like I get what they did initially. You know, you had the draft. These people stay on Raw. These people are going to SmackDown, and you can shake things up and move people around so you get different matchups. You know, man, I've got Stone Cold over here on Raw. I really would like to see him go against John Cena, but he's on SmackDown. Okay, we have the draft now. They're both on Raw or they're both on SmackDown. So I get why we have the brand split. I do like the surprise aspect, almost an invasion type of aspect. Uh, I don't think it's a long term thing. I don't. I think you start getting people asking. You know, you get your average fan start asking, "What's the point of the brand split if you're going to come over here and you're going to go over there all the time?" So I
Yep.
think it needs to be a mixture of the two. Have somebody show up one night, and then the next week, you know, advertise this person's come to see this person face to face. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's probably the best way to do that, in my opinion.
Well, if you remember back when they first put SmackDown on television, there was no brand split. Everybody was on every show, but they were also using the Crash TV model. And so nothing on TV was happening for more than 3 minutes at a time before they'd switch to something else. It's easy to get a lot of faces on your television in 2 hours when no segment lasts longer than 3 minutes.
True.
So, that's a quick way to do it. And again, I think that if you give too much away on free television, people are less likely to buy the PLEs or to buy the streaming service or to go see a house show because they know they can wait until it's all for free on Monday or Friday night. And I've always thought that it was ridiculous to just shove everything out there when the Monday Night Wars ended and there was no more reason to make every match pay per view caliber matches. We should have gone back to the squash formula with a couple of feature matches, champions in promo, and then we do once a month, we have everybody on the big shows. And I think that that was a mistake that they made 20 years ago, and they still haven't corrected it.
Can understand that. Mike, what do you think about it?
I mean, he makes a valid point.
Uh,
I
with
seem to I seem to like I seem to like more of the you get you get different things with the different shows. If they would keep consistency of it and everything else, you're making it like it's, you know, you have this world, and every once in a while these worlds will meet up.
No, and I can agree with that because if you look at the product, if you look at what you see on Raw and compare it to what you see on SmackDown and compare either one of those to what you see on NXT, they're insanely different. You're not gonna, you know, there's certain things you see on Raw, and I'm not even talking the superstars. I'm talking the atmosphere, the crowd reactions, things like that are different from what you see on SmackDown. And NXT is kind of that, and this may sound bad, but I don't mean it in a derogatory way at all. But it's kind of the unpolished, raw, let's fight kind of feel to it. Whereas SmackDown's kind of the in between that unpolishedness and the production that is Raw. So I feel like you've got levels there. And I can agree with that. If they were to stay with what they have, then you've got all the different levels covered.
Mm-hmm.
But all of that is decided by the fans. The direction any wrestling promotion goes is strongly influenced by the fans and what the fans are popping to? You know, what are the fans liking? What are they not liking? Which leads us to our next topic, one that I know Rick has a lot to say about, and that is the wrestling fan base currently. So anything that happens in wrestling, you're going to have your not your average marks that are going to sit, discuss, compare. You've got your Dave Meltzers that are going to say it's great unless it's not AEW and then it sucks. You're going to have your fans that are don't care what it is, they're pissed off about it anyway. If the match goes 20 minutes, the match went too long. If it goes 18 minutes, it didn't go long enough. I mean, the fan bases that we have for these shows have gone almost like, I don't know, like a rabid dog at times. So run it with each of you running promotions. I'll start with you, Mike. What is the fan base like? What is your take on today's fan base?
Well, locally we have more of a we have more of the uh, the not your average marks, as you would say, people that aren't going to get up in arms about things, and they're actually going to sit there and enjoy the ride that we're taking them on. We have more of that. There are diehards that we have that are, but the usually the diehards that we have in this area aren't as toxic, or not. They're not toxic uh, as everybody else is in the wrestling media bubble. That so I think I think that the fans here enjoy a good story. I think they're actually open minded enough to not necessarily go out and completely try to bury somebody just because something didn't go exactly how they wanted it to go, like you would see on some of this television stuff. Now, bigger scale, WWE, AEW, all of those, you're gonna have your toxic fans that, this is what they want, and they're gonna raise hell until they try to figure out how to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily work that way. Some, and right now you've got you've got different people that are in different places, that some are listening to say, okay, they've got they've got these different ways to tell, okay, this guy's over, we need to start pushing him. And it's not necessarily what wrestling Twitter has to say about it.
Well, and I'm glad you bring it up that way because Rick, I know that longtime fan of Dirt Sheets. You've seen a lot, and I know that you see the socials a lot as far as these fans go. Um, first question on that: would you agree with Mike that independent fans are a lot less rabid than all the internet trolls and such?
Yeah, I think that indie fans are actually more casual than you would think. You would think that based on what independence, you kind of have to seek it out. It's not just right there on your TV screen. Um, you kind of have to do a little bit more work when it comes to being a fan of the indies. And so you'd think that would cater to the hardcore of the fan base because they're used to seeking out, wanting more, being more vocal. But no, today I think the indie fan is the casual fan. The indie fan is the one that they might watch television wrestling a couple times a week or a couple times a month, every other week. They may be the one that just orders WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble. Um, but I think that I would rather deal at this point with indie fans than deal with the marks online, because I think that the marks online are one of the things that actually is a black eye on the wrestling business.
I can
And
agree with that, and we're going to talk about those. We'll talk about those marks in just a second. I do want to throw something out there about indie fans. I think indie fans are. At every show I've been to, at least the fans are appreciative. They appreciate the show that's been put in front of them, and there's a huge difference in seeing your favorite star from afar and being able to wave at them and them wave back at you, and being able to take your favorite star in BCW or your favorite star in Squared Circle Pro and walk up to them and shake their hand and tell them good match. Because, you can do that with a Justin Taylor and a Jeb Bingham, but you can't do that with a, Cody Rhodes or Kevin Owens, because you have limited access to them. So I think that it's a little bit more genuine feel to an independent fan because they have access to their favorite stars.
Mm-hmm.
But that does bring us to the internet marks and the effect they have on things. So again, we'll start with Mike. Internet fans, Mike, what do you got?
So internet fans are the most feral individuals I've ever come across, and they like what they like, and sometimes it's good stuff, and then sometimes it's really bad stuff that they like, but they're gonna stand up on their soapbox regardless,
Mm-hmm.
and raise all kinds of hell until they feel like they've been heard.
Makes sense. Rick, what are your thoughts on internet fans?
Can you hear me rolling my eyes?
I can, in fact, hear you rolling your eyes.
The IWC. My slogan for the IWC is, this is the group that I would apply the following slogan. Tell me you don't know anything about wrestling without telling me you don't know anything about wrestling.
I agree.
So for being the smart fan, they are some of the dumbest people I have ever tried to listen to, read. Most of them can't type a complete sentence correctly. Most of them can't spell. I mean, okay. This is some of the wrestlers I will lump into this same category because they have the same mindset as the IWC when it comes to matches, programs. They want a certain thing right now, but they don't think about where's that going to go, what's down here on the end of the program,
Tony Khan.
what's our next step. They just have this cool idea for this one thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And wrestling fans online are the same way. If so-and-so loses one match on Raw, they are buried.
Yep, they're being buried.
Well, first off, you don't even use that word right. Okay? Like, you don't even know. You buried yourself by not using the word buried correctly. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. And I am very much a lurker on Twitter. I do post. I do follow a lot of people. A lot of people follow me. And I post when necessary, but I lurk a lot. And I click the little bookmark because I'm extremely petty. And I want those bookmarks so that when something that you begged for happens and then you gripe about it, I'm going to pull that bookmark out and I'm going to send you the receipt and tell you how stupid you are.
Yeah, I get it.
So, because I love it. Receipt days are great days. And usually those are the days right after a pay-per-view. Or in the hours after a pay-per-view. Like the first 2 or 3 hours after a pay-per-view goes off the air, I am online just receipt, because I've seen so much dumb crap get said in the hours and days leading up to said show. And all I need you to know that you're an idiot.
Well, and here's my thing, and mark your calendar, boys, because this is the one and only time you'll ever hear something like this from me. I'm about to defend Dave Meltzer. And this is the extent of my defense. At least if you're going to be an internet mark, if you're going to be a smart mark, be consistent. Because I hear people all the time, I'm one of them, that's all over Dave Meltzer because, if Tony Khan manages to go to the bathroom by himself, it's a 5-star event. I mean, that's the way it works with Dave Meltzer. I feel like, sometimes he and Tony share a brain. But you've got these people that are all pissed off and calling him a sellout because he called the Drew McIntyre CM Punk Hell in a Cell match a 5-star match. Well, you're damn right it was a 5-star match. And I'm not going to hold it against him for saying it was a 5-star match because he got it right. It was a 5-star match. I don't agree with half the ones he says on AEW, but he was right about this one. And these same people that are like talking about how trash he is for talking about AEW are like, oh, Dave Meltzer said it was a 5-star match. That's how great this match was. Okay, be consistent. If you don't like what he says, then don't like what he says. The sun shines on a dog's ass once in a while. Like, he gets them one right every now and then, and this was one of those. But you have to stay consistent as a smart mark on the internet, and that you just don't see that.
Here's where, and I understand what you're saying, and kudos to Dave for recognizing how good that match was. But for me, I don't put a lack of credence into any of those star ratings because, and here's a statistic, I just pulled it up. There have been 263 matches awarded 5 or more stars by Dave Meltzer. Will Ospreay has 42. Kurt Angle has 0. So as far as I'm concerned, stars mean nothing.
No, and
the only people who care about them are the marks in the back of the locker room.
Well, and here's the thing about a 5-star match. I don't give a damn about the stars. When I say something's a 5-star match, I mean that is the top quality match.
I get it.
I.e.,
but Dave Meltzer
actually
means Dave Meltzer wants you to believe that it's a badge of honor.
Yeah, no. And
he didn't even invent it either. He stole it from Jim Cornette and James Dooley. They were the first two to do it.
And there are websites that keep track of these stars and how many, like you pulled up the stats there. How many of these stars have this many, or how many of these superstars have this many star rated matches? Like the stars are collective or something. And
that's, thanks to the 100 people who frequent cagematch.com and those 100 people who put a little rating on every single thing that happens that Tony Khan looks at and says, oh, I'm doing a great job.
I'm doing good because Uncle Dave told me.
Oh, because there's 100 people on this one website who think we're doing amazing. Meanwhile, we can't sell more than 2,000 tickets to something that's not a first-time show.
Yep. So this, I'm glad we got it going this way because that's going to bring me into our next topic, which has the potential for a 5-star match, not a Meltzer 5-star match, but a Guapo 5-star match. And that is the idea of Cody versus Gunther at Crown Jewel. I'm not sure where to go with this one.
I'm not a
It's gonna
fan.
be it's gonna be a big match just because it's Cody and it's Gunther. But Mike, I'm gonna turn it over to you. What are your thoughts on this match?
I think it's not a great thing right now to put your newly crowned world champion against your fairly newly crowned WWE champion. It's not a good thing because somebody's got to be the B champion.
Yeah.
It's not
Yep.
something that's going to be good for business, because what that's going to end up doing is these, okay, say Gunther wins. Okay. Progressively, things might end up starting to go downhill with the Cody run at that point, because of the fact that, you know, merchandise is not as good because he's the B champion. Ratings aren't as good for his time that's on there, because he was the B champion. It doesn't really work, and it's not great for WWE. It's not great for either one of those guys, because both of those guys right now are killing it right now. They have all the tools necessary to tell great stories and do great things in the ring. It's not time to put these two together. It's not the time.
Certainly not if it's got a title involved, because that's the other thing. You could have the two champions have the match. You could have KO interfere. You could do something. You could go to a schmoz. You can have the traditional champion versus champion that doesn't really end in a decision, but they've painted themselves into a corner. There must be a decision, and this belt is on the line, which means one of those two guys has to either submit or get pinned. And neither one of them need that right now.
No, and I agree with that. And in my opinion, the WWE has spent a lot of time, especially with Seth Rollins, explaining that this is not the second place belt. This is not the consolation prize. This is the workhorse belt. In bringing in that additional championship, they've made it a point to show that it's relevant. It's just as important as the other championship. But is it, once you put one champion over another champion? Like, does the belt the champion that loses, let's say somehow Cody pulls it out, Cody pins Gunther, or Cody submits Gunther, however it goes, is Gunther's belt still as relevant as Cody's is, because now Cody's beat him as a champion? And that's where I see the problem coming in with this.
I just think you're not wrong. I just don't see the benefit long term to this. I have always looked at the Saudi shows as a kind of a multiverse alternate reality where not much that happens over there comes back to mean a whole hell of a lot domestically. So I just feel like this is something they've created for that region, and that's fine, but not with these two, man.
No, I think Mike probably put it best. Both of these guys relatively new champions, and putting one against the other it doesn't make sense right now. And so you end up with one champion over another champion. No, we're not losing any belts. We're going to actually gain a belt, which, I mean, cool, you get the belt, but it's going to be, and I think, Rick, you and I have discussed this, it's going to be just like saying, Cody Rhodes is your 2023, 2024 Royal Rumble winner. This is your 2024 Crown Jewel champion.
Yeah.
And it's a title that doesn't need a belt, in my opinion.
No, it should have just been a trophy or something.
It should have never happened at all. We can this. I mean, these Saudi shows have huge money.
Oh yeah.
Maybe.
You know what would sell at Saudi? How about we put Gunther and Goldberg together?
Yes.
That's it.
Or
Yep.
something that Rick had brought up to me before, and I couldn't agree with more. Since the things that happen in Saudi are, like you said, kind of alternate universe type things, drop the belt off of Gunther, drop it onto Sammy, and drop Cody's belt onto KO, and let Sammy and KO go at it in Saudi, and then get have it come back and put the belts back where you want them. But people in Saudi would eat that up.
One of the problems right now, I think, that the main roster is feeling is that I think Triple H is battling with, he wants these reigns to be prestigious, but not every reign needs to last a year plus.
Right.
And you should feel free to drop a title for a couple of months and put it right back on somebody. Ric Flair made a career of putting a guy over for 3 weeks and then getting the belt back. And it didn't hurt Flair at all to lose the title. It helped the guy that won it. Mm-hmm. Sammy could have beaten Gunther on Raw 2 weeks ago, and then they could have had Goldberg show up that night, spear Gunther, and Sammy win, and then built to Gunther Goldberg at Saudi, and then Goldberg loses and Gunther wins, and Goldberg gets his last match, which would have been a good match because Gunther would have carried him to a good match.
Yeah.
And then Gunther gets it right back from Sammy in his rematch. Bing, bang, boom. Easy peasy. All we did was good business. Nobody got hurt. Cody does not have to hold that title till WrestleMania. Cody could drop it back and forth for KO 2 or 3 times in 2 months if they wanted to. Randy could get a reign in there too. Cody could go into WrestleMania a 3-time champion if they wanted to.
Yeah.
The Roman reign meant something because it was 4 years. The Gunther reign for the Intercontinental title meant something because he broke Honky Tonk Man's record. There's always a reason for something to mean something, but that doesn't mean we have to do it all the time.
And I don't feel like they're trying to do it all the time. I really feel like the Roman Reigns title run, Bianca Belair's title run, Charlotte Flair, Gunther breaking, all of that was to put current day records in place.
Oh, yeah. That's
update that record book,
Yeah.
So, talking about the idea that we could have done this and come back because it's an alternate universe, do you think that's the way it's going to stay in a Triple H regime? Of course, the end of November is when we're doing Survivor Series. The beginning of November is when we're doing Crown Jewel. Do you see things that happen at Crown Jewel carrying over into Survivor Series and into the December 14th showing of Saturday Night Main Event?
I honestly see if we have some sort of a deal where, let's just say, Goldberg actually is in Saudi and he actually does what he costs Gunther the match. We set that up where you're going to get a lot of people coming to see, on network television, Gunther versus Goldberg.
Yeah. And that'd be a great one to put on there. That'd be a great way to kick it off. Because you're going to get the lapsed fan, the old school fan, you're going to get them all back for that one match. And if you can turn them on to the new product, you've got a whole group of fans back. But I don't know.
Go ahead, Mike.
If they do things right, I mean, this is a huge opportunity for them to to get past that 1.8, 1.9 that they're keeping right now, and get back up to over 2 million on a regular occurrence. I don't necessarily know how the numbers work as far as how streaming is going to end up coming into the play of all this, but they have to have some sort of a measuring system, whether
there's a streaming metric.
And that does. Oh, go ahead.
I haven't got to really hear much about streaming methods and how they're doing all that. So that's good to know that there's actually something out there that's gonna be able to keep track of things.
There is absolutely a metric for that, and I wonder now, and this is kind of going into our next topic a little bit. So much of what you see now, we talked about the smart marks on the internet. You know, you've got people like us who are not your average marks, and you've got your common average fan, right? So everybody, like we started off talking about, everybody knows that this is a scripted show. It's not, you know, the action is real, the outcome is scripted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you think, as a business, whether it be WWE or AEW or any of the televised products, pulling that curtain back and allowing it to be more real, more realistic, if you will, has that positively or negatively affected the product that's put out? And we'll start with you, Mike.
Give me a second to collect my thoughts.
Well, that's fine. We can move over. Rick, what do you got?
How the change in the business has affected current fans, stuff like that.
Well, how the pulling back of the curtain and the death of kayfabe and it being a more realistic product.
I think that it has negatively affected what we're watching now, because I think more people involved in the business subscribe to the idea that the people at home know that this is not what it used to be. So that allows us to treat this in a different way. And we're not going to sell it the same way. We're not going to build the same type of programs. We're not going to take this seriously as a sport. We're going to go very tongue in cheek with everything because everyone's in on it. And I firmly believe that that is the prevailing idea inside the business, that we are now in the performance art era. And that means that everybody's in on it. So everybody should understand what we're doing. And so that means we can toss out all the fundamentals and tropes that we've relied on for decades. And we can do all of the goofy tongue-in-cheek crap because everyone's in on it. And I think that that leads to the idea that the people who want it to be serious and the people who want it to be what it used to be, they're going to watch YouTube now, and they're going to hang on the words of historical content podcasters, and they're going to turn off the main business until it's time for WrestleMania. And I think that's what happens all the time. And it's directly related to the changing of the guard. And in my opinion, the changing of the guard took place when WCW and ECW went out of business within 3 weeks of each other. And within 2 years, we're doing Tough Enough, where we're completely pulling back the curtain, and we're having Triple H tell people, if you tag me like that in the ring, I'll hit you for real. What do you mean for real?
I understand it. Mike, what do you think?
Preach, Brother Rick, because really and truly, I mean, you pull back you pull back the curtain, and you have people that want they're tuning in because they want to believe. Okay, we have already seen where here just recently we've had things go where you had a tribal necklace and a friendship bracelet mean more than the belts that they've had because
Yep.
of the way they're telling the stories.
Mm-hmm.
No,
So
I agree with that.
And if you look at it from another form, you've got the guys over here at WB Discovery, and then you got the guys over here that in WWE, where the product is completely different on either side of that. They're not, one side's not doing any of this stuff. It's all match with no sensical stuff. And now we pulled back the reins and got this to a new regime where everything is starting to be consistent and the stories are starting to unwrap and everything else, and things aren't changing day of show going, oh, well, I decided we're not going to do that anymore.
Right.
So, and if you look, everything seems to be going up on one side and everything seems to be going down on the other side. So you tell me.
Way down.
I cannot believe that modern wrestling has gotten to a place for me fundamentally where I thought that I would look forward to going back and watching Bret Hart and Jean-Pierre Lafitte feud over a leather jacket.
Well, all right, here's my thoughts on this. And there's a few more aspects that go into it for me. For one, you take wrestling from the 80s. It was very character based, character based, but
and
it was
very
also
pseudo sports based.
But it was also being pushed to a much different age range than it's being pushed to now. Wrestling, the characters were for the kids. Eat your, say your prayers, take your vitamins, brother. That it was geared towards children. Fast forward to the Attitude Era, now you're looking at teenagers into mid-20s, and now you've got a range that's 18 to like 50. But not only has that changed, I want you to stop and think about it for a second. Some of your biggest moments in wrestling that people remember right now have always been the ones that pull back the curtain and show some realism. I'll give you 3 examples. The Click doing their swan song, they doing the hug and all that, killing kayfabe for the first time.
Curtain call,
yeah, the curtain call. You've got that. You've got CM Punk looking Triple H right in the face and say, "This is not CM Punk talking to Triple H. This is Phil Brooks talking to Paul Levesque. I hate you." That really, people still talk about that. People still remember it. Tie that one in with the pipe bomb. The pipe bomb. I know, Rick, you said before you think it's overrated, but the realism, people have made that the standard. That's the bar. If you're going to cut a promo, any kind of shoot promo at all, that's the bar now. And then just recently, think about Randy Orton for just a second. We had a spot where I think it was Kofi messed something up. What was Randy's response? Stupid, stupid. That's it. I still remember that. But was it NXT last week? I believe that he and Javon Evans had a match and missed the RKO completely. Javon Evans gets up damn near in tears and tells him, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Randy Orton shakes his hand, tells him it's all good. You're the man. That right there. People are going to hold on to that, and people are going to remember that. And it is one of those moments where you've pulled the curtain back and seen that you missed a move, but it's okay. You know, you went off script a little bit. This was supposed to go like this, and it didn't, but it's okay. And I feel like you have to have that when you're going to a fan base that's, like I said, 18 to 50 now, instead of just the kids that believe it's all, you know, that believe you're actually taking somebody's head off with a chair. So that's where I'm at on that. I feel like it's got its positives, it's got its negatives, but it's completely necessary. As you age up your product, you have to do that as well. You have to age up the content.
Okay. I don't like pulling the curtain back as much as some people would. Um, you know, the I'm Phil Brooks saying I hate you, Paul Levesque. You know, that was I didn't like I didn't necessarily like that for okay, it you break these fourth walls and then you get people that don't believe anymore. You know, newsflash, Santa Claus does not exist. So
The
what
views and
happens at
opinions
that
expressed
point?
by Mike Caldwell are not necessarily the views and opinions.
But I mean, really, the moment you do that, you destroy somebody's faith in what they have.
You may stop believing in Santa, but you still get presents every Christmas.
I would
I
like
don't know
to
who you're
point,
lying
I would
to. I
like
ain't got a present in a while.
I would like to point out that every example that you gave, Guapo, was an example from the Monday Night War era forward,
Yes.
when more people were watching wrestling on television as a whole because it was now national versus regional. But
Fair.
for every curtain call moment where we pulled the curtain back, there's a moment like Nikita Koloff following Dusty out to the ring for the cage match when it was supposed to be Magnum TA, but Magnum TA got hurt in the car wreck and nobody knew Nikita was following Dusty. They thought he was coming after Dusty until he joined Dusty in the cage and the place lost their mind when he tackled the Horseman. And you've got the Garvin brothers coming back together because Jim Cornette threw fire on Ronnie Garvin, and Jimmy Garvin left the heel side to go help his brother, who they'd kept apart on television for years. You've had realism in the business, but it was worked realism, not realism in your face. And then you also had, for every pipe bomb, you have a hard time promo where you have people saying real things, but they're saying it in a worked manner, but they're not selling it as, ooh, this is real. And to me, that's where the pipe bomb fails, because if the pipe bomb was really the pipe bomb, it would have been cut off like that. The fact that he was allowed to say the things that he said was done to build heat and build excitement, which means it was worked, which means it's not a shoot, which means it's not a pipe bomb, but everybody thinks it is. And that's why I don't give it any credence, because everybody's like, oh, the pipe bomb. Well, you got worked, fool. So I don't know how to help you.
If it was a work, it did its job, because it is what everybody sets the bar as now.
But that's the thing, though. If that's what set the bar, then some people need to go back and YouTube some stuff, or they need to go to Peacock and watch some stuff, because that bar is pretty damn low compared to what was before it.
And I'll give the heart for me, the the promo standard is the Hard Times promo. I've always been a fan of that, and it sits way up here for me.
My point is you can tap the realism vein. You can tap the realism vein without pulling the curtain back. To me, if you're choosing to tap the vein in telling a story and letting the work tell it, that's what the fundamental of the business was. If you have to pull back the curtain to tap the vein, that is what Jim Cornette would call lazy booking.
And that's fair. But if you stop and look at it for a second, like I said, you've got the Phil Brooks, Paul Levesque thing. You've got you've got all of these things that have happened. Like, do you expect me as a 44-year-old, almost 45-year-old wrestling fan to still find the magic in the Mountie versus the Repo Man? No, because those characters are for kids. And it's not, you have to evolve the product. And as soon as Eric Bischoff brought in the NWO, you're automatically shifted from these kids to these teenagers and early to mid 20s.
And that's true. But when Eric Bischoff brought in the NWO, it took 2 months for them to finally say on television, we don't work for the WWF.
Mm-hmm.
In today's world, they would have come down, Scott Hall would have come down those steps, and then they would have cut to Raw Talk, and two talking heads would have told us, oh, this is part of the show. Because the business, when Scott Hall came down the stairs and said, you want a war? We were still working people. Today, we don't work people. We do stuff and then we go, hey, by the way, here's how we did it.
No, and that's very true. I'll give you that one.
So I'm not asking people to go back to Mountie versus Repo Man. What I'm asking people to do is let's go to a place where we don't have to explain Jacques Rougeau is not a real Mountie. And by the way, the Repo Man used to be Demolition Smash.
No, I agree with that. I do. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I like it every now and then when a current talent makes reference to their old gimmicks or something. I think that's one of the only things I like about AEW is when somebody goes over there and makes reference to their former character. I always think that's funny.
It was very funny when Paul White showed up in a shirt that said "No more BS."
No more BS for no more big shit.
That's funny.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of thing I enjoy.
That's funny, But here's the thing: they didn't have to explain it to us. They didn't have to go. That means Big Show.
But they did. Shivani did.
Okay, but he didn't have to because all of the people that knew what was going on did. He said that for the morons who have no idea what happens outside of Twitter.
I think we're cracking Mike up over there.
He said that for the idiots who would rather watch PWG and everybody take a bump for an imaginary grenade or watch New Japan Pro Wrestling where nobody sells anything but won't watch regular wrestling because they're not edgy enough for them. Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean BS? Big Show. Oh, you mean that stuff we don't watch? Whatever. But we all know who Vikingo is. Screw you.
All right, Mike, make it make sense.
I still don't know who Vikingo is.
Nobody does. The only people who know are the luchadors and the AEW sickos. That's it.
He's the guy
and
that
I'll
does the
prove
flip,
it to
right?
you because he's going to be at Bound for Glory, and Mike Johnson from PW Insider had to write a whole thing today explaining who Vikingo was.
All right, let's move away from Vikingo. See, I can see your blood pressure going up there, Rick. Let's change it up just a little bit. Something historic did happen in AEW. The Clown Show did something big. Bryan Danielson with the retirement. Number 3, I think it is.
Yes.
But I think this one's going to stick. I think he's done in ring. I don't think he's done with the wrestling business at all, but I do think he is done with his in ring. But had something pointed out to me earlier today from Mike, and so I'm going to throw the lead to you on this, Mike. But a very cool little fact about the 3 retirements of one Bryan Danielson.
The last match that Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan, had on Monday Night Raw was against Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
The last match that Daniel Bryan had on SmackDown was against Roman Reigns.
That's retirement number 2.
And then finally, Jon Moxley, aka Dean Ambrose, put the nail in the coffin at AEW. So technically, the 3 people that started together as the Shield took out Bryan Danielson.
Kind of a cool little fun fact there.
I think it is a very cool fun fact. It's also a very sad commentary on where Jon Moxley is compared to the other 2.
I agree with that. I think,
but he's
Mox could be doing
4-time
so much
AEW
better.
champion.
Yeah, great. He's running a gimmick right now that's based on a skinhead movie, and they should now call the Blackpool Combat Club the Whitepool Combat Club, and they should change the combat clubs to K's.
The thoughts and opinions of Rick. No.
They're running a skinhead angle on AEW. They're running a skinhead angle on AEW. And Shane McMahon's going to come in and be the Grand Dragon.
It was me, Austin. It was me all along.
It was me, Danielson. It was me all along. Excuse the fact
that the same red cape, I'm going to be pissed.
My dad wore a red robe. Ignore that mine's white.
The hood on mine's a little pointier than Dad's was.
This is not a dunce cap. Excuse me.
That's just wrong on several different levels.
But it's happening.
Really quickly.
You can't make it up when it's actually happening.
I do agree with you in the fact that it does say something about where Moxley's at now. Because I've always been a Jon Moxley fan. I hated some of the directions they went with the Dean Ambrose character. The gas mask thing was just too much for me. I couldn't. But before that, I don't care. I'm going to say what I want to. Here, throw some water at you. I liked that. I don't like his character now. Since he's been in AEW, even just coming out as Jon Moxley, as soon as he started being stabbed in the head with forks and skewers and anything else that'll make him bleed, I'm like, all right, I'm done with him.
That's because the second Tony Khan cut him a check, he put his CZW shirt back on.
True.
I really liked rolling around in broken glass. Vince wouldn't let me do that. How much you going to pay me? Can I roll around in glass? Great. They spent 8 years scrubbing that crap off that guy, and the second he leaves, he just rolls in the mud again. Great.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I've done my fair share of hardcore matches. I've done my fair share of death matches with, cinder blocks and stop signs and light tubes and you name it. I've bumped in it. And really and truly, I don't even remember. I mean, it may be the concussions talking, but I don't remember much of any of that. But what I do remember is, the things that I did, post 2015, where I actually had a character and did things.
Well, and here's the thing about Moxley. I think if he had stayed in WWE, I think if he went back to WWE now, he could have a good run with a good character. He could finish out decent. I don't think there's a future in what he's doing now, and for just that reason. I mean, take away the glass, and take away the tacks, and take away the forks and the skewers and the chains, and what are you left with John Moxley? Currently, nothing. And that's part of the problem for me.
He's running on the same fuel that everybody who leaves WWE runs on, and that is the fact that we are a former WWE guy.
Fair.
And I say that because that is the place where he achieved his biggest fame.
It is.
If
Nope.
AJ Styles chooses to leave and go to AEW, I don't know that it'll be exactly fair to call him a former WWE guy, because that's not where he made his name. He's a former TNA guy who's in WWE right now. But more times than not, the people who get the first look or the first big offer or the big offers period are the people who came from the most recognizable wrestling machine on the planet.
Agreed.
That's what John Moxley is getting to do right now. He's getting a huge paycheck on his WWE credentials, and he's wrestling an indie style.
Well, and bringing that up the way you did, the most well-known and recognizable wrestling promotion on the planet, let's get into the most recognizable family in the wrestling world. No, I'm not talking about the McMahons or the Rhodes. I'm talking about the Bloodline. We had the chance to see Jimmy come back. We've had the chance to see Jimmy tell Roman, we need help. And on Raw Monday, we got the chance to see Jay open a door to a locker room, and there's Jimmy. And we got what all of us knew we were going to get. We got I already told you no, get out of my face. The angry brothers thing. I know there's a lot of the smart marks that are pushed. They're saying they're lighting the fire under this, getting it cooking for Survivor Series, so we can have OG Bloodline versus New Bloodline, and it's all go because The Rock's back too. And I personally don't believe that. I got my own thoughts on it, but I want to hear from you guys. Where do you think? We'll start with you, Mike. Where do you think we're going with the Bloodline?
I think that they're still doing the slow cooking with the Bloodline stuff, and while there may be some sort of a war game situation that they have at Survivor Series, I honestly think it's going to be more of a Roman, Cody, Randy, and some other bigger names against this Bloodline. And now the icing on the cake would probably be the fact that Kevin Owens may actually join them on their side.
I can agree with that. Rick, what do you got?
I think that right now, I do think they're trying to heat it up, but I don't think that they're headed towards the penultimate War Games match that everybody wants to see. I think it's very possible that they do something, but I don't think it's going to be War Games. I think that the main War Games deal is going to be Judgment Day and the people against them. I think that's going to be your main War Games program. I don't think it behooves them to move directly to Bloodline versus Bloodline. We've got too much story to tell. There's too much story with Sammy and Jay finally coming around. We haven't debuted Tala Tonga yet. We don't know where The Rock's going to fall yet. Cody has been kind of pulled out of it a little bit by the KO feud. So
not forget about the return of the Wise Man.
And Paul Heyman hasn't. And I think that Paul Heyman will end up being the one who convinces Sammy and Jay to come back. But I just think that there's so much more to do. It took 4 years to get that title off of Roman and to tell that original Bloodline story. I just can't see them moving to Bloodline versus Bloodline in War Games in 4 months.
I agree with that. So I'll put it like this. I'll give this analogy. Either of you own an electric skillet?
Yes.
Okay, here's my thing about an electric skillet. You set the temperature you want, and the temperature will go down, and it'll kick back on and bring it right back up to that temperature. And I think we're in an electric skillet style holding pattern right now. You know, it kind of cools down for a little bit. Bam, Roman's back now. Cools down for a little bit. Jimmy's back. Cools down for a little bit. Let's bring in Talatonga. Cools down for a little bit. Let's bring in, Paul Heyman. Cools down. Let's put Jay and Jimmy together. You know? I think we're in that wave right now.
To be completely honest, I hope that Jay stays the hell out of it.
That's it.
Because Jay he's doing so much for himself right now. It's like, why am I building my house, and then I'm going to go ahead and give you the bricks that I'm using to build my house to help you build your house?
Well, and I actually have an answer for that, because the same blood is on those bricks. Like, I could see something happening to where Jay does stay out of it for the most part, and then, Jimmy's in the ring and falls victim to the numbers game, and Jay ain't having it. He comes out and saves him because that's his brother. Saves him, walks out, because it is his brother. And little brother's acting a damn fool right now. So I could see something like that, but I don't think there's any way to keep Jay completely uninvolved. Not when it's his whole family. I mean,
I definitely think that he's going to be the last one to crack. And that's because he's done the most on his own.
Yeah.
Sammy just had a very personally defeating moment. I could see Sammy saying, I have nothing to lose. Sure, I'll go help. Long before Jay does. I think Jay
having a problem with it.
I think Jay's the guy who runs down there at the very last minute when the chips are completely down, and he slides in and clears house. And when they go to shake his hand, he's like, don't touch me. I didn't do that just for you. I did that for our blood, and now I'm out. Mm-hmm. I could definitely see that type of attitude. But I do think we need there's too many players not on the field right now to go right into War Games.
No, I agree with that. I would be surprised if we get this by War Games next year.
I think War Games next year is the most doable. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if to me, if they do something at War Games this year, I think it's too soon. But I also think it'll be a case of Endeavor thinking they need it and kind of pressing Triple H's hand.
Could see that. Well, that brings us to our last topic of the evening, one that's going to be fun for all. How to fix the clown show. And before you say fire everyone, that's not an option. I've already tried. I mean, if I fire them all, if I talk Tony into firing them all, Dave Meltzer's just going to say, but they're all 5-star. So we'll start with Mikey. What's the one way that you fix AEW?
The first thing I would do is I would put Jeff Jarrett in charge of the booking. Jeff Jarrett has been through watching his father do things. He's been he's done things on his own. He knows how a worker thinks, and he knows how a promoter thinks. So I mean, he's the most capable person that they have in that area to use, and he would be the reason why it would change directions.
There's
I
not
like
a single person in that company that has the level of experience that Jeff Jarrett has.
and they use him for nothing.
He was a commentator at Wrestle Dream. And not even on the main show, on the pre-show.
Mm-mm-mm.
And he ran down to the ring during the Whitepool Combat Club attack.
White All right, Rick.
And for just for full disclosure, I did not make that up. Alfred Konawa on Twitter, he's a Forbes writer. He made that up, but I think it's very entertaining. And
It
I
is
love
quite
I love
entertaining.
Alfred.
he made that up. So all fun to him because that's hilarious. He also calls NXT African NXT is what he calls it because there's so many black people on the show. That's
Okay,
really
time out,
funny.
Time out. The Not Your Average Mark Wrestling Podcast loves everyone. Does not condone anything that AEW is doing with John Moxley or the titles that are given to other promotions. We love everybody except Dave Meltzer
Look,
and Tony Khan.
AEW is never going to change until Tony Khan wants it to. Tony Khan is Vince McMahon. Triple H was not allowed to do in theory. What I'm saying is in theory. Everybody said Triple H needs to be in charge. Triple H needs to be in charge of creative. Well, what was keeping Triple H from being in creative?
Vince McMahon.
Okay, Vince McMahon's gone. What happened?
Triple H is in charge. Things are good.
And the product is what?
Great.
Better.
And making money and hand over fist, and there's not a lot to gripe about.
Internationally.
But what we see on AEW television is exactly what Tony Khan wants us to see.
Mhm.
Tony Khan is a work rate mark. Tony Khan is a message board troll. Tony Khan is one of those AOL message board goofs from the late 90s whose entire world was built around ECW and Japanese wrestling.
He's got
And
man.
that is stuff out of his own mouth. Okay?
True.
He
Very true.
ran an e-fed that 2 people read. He said that. 2 people, him and another dude. And that dude said he was really good at writing.
Dollars on
And
a
now
dime.
he owns a show.
Dollars on
What?
a dime. The other guy was Dave Meltzer.
All I know is there are 100,000 things that you could change about the AEW product. There are a lot of things that I think work, but they're executed horrifically.
Mhm.
But the concept is fine. I used to hate Orange Cassidy when he was on the indie scene. Because on the indie scene, people would sell the lazy crap. In AEW, they don't sell it, they use it as a mind game. It's used as a way to up the other dude's anxiety and throw them off their game. And it usually ends up backfiring on Orange Cassidy and it makes the guy want to work harder. But they switched it up a little bit. So I don't mind Orange Cassidy anymore. He's just another dude. He's not a main eventer by any means. and he doesn't need to be the focal point of your show, for Christ's sake. But I don't dislike him, and I wouldn't get rid of him. He's very popular, and he sells merch. So, fine. How he's been executed in matches is questionable because he's very much a one-trick pony who has been there for 5 years and has evolved nada.
Nope,
He
I
has
agree.
not evolved an iota because all he's been booked in are matches.
And I'm glad you said that because that brings me to my point and how I'm going to fix AEW. Storylines. You
Which
have
they
to
are
be able
doing
to
more
tell a
of now.
story.
In the last year, they've done more storylines than they've done in 5 years.
No, and I'll agree with that, but I will always go back to this. You have Christian Cage on your show, which is good. It's good that you brought in another WWE former performer. That's great. You've got Christian Cage. Then you bring in Adam Copeland. You have the opportunity to spend 6 months to a year doing this to WWE, and you decide, nah, I didn't like it. We're just going to move on with something else. What?
Now, in all fairness, it is very possible that they could have been headed in that direction, and then somebody did not step in and say, hey, Adam, maybe you shouldn't jump off the top of a cage and land on your feet, stupid.
Very true. Very true. And then, you know, when you think about that, then you turn around and think about you had this awesome thing going for like 6 weeks with MJF and Adam Cole and their friends, and they go out. The vignettes were just comedic gold, and then you blow it up. And then you not only do you blow it up, you know, cool. If you're going to do it, blow it up and make it a big thing. Don't blow it up and then toss it. Decide, well, we're not going to do that.
They revealed that Adam Cole was the devil when they knew Adam Cole was hurt and wasn't going to be able to get in the ring.
My point exactly. They had to kill it because they decided to do the big
And
reveal.
now, miraculously, they're both back on television, and Adam Cole is a baby face and MJF is a heel, and we're not even acknowledging that any of that happened.
No, we just hit the reset button.
Isn't that the way it is with a video game?
Yes, you are the man, sir.
That is it. They literally pulled the cartridge out, blew in it, and stuck it back in the freaking game.
Somebody
Yep,
needs
we're
to
gonna
buy
start
them a
over.
game genie. I'm just saying. That's how you fix AEW. You get them a game genie. And yes, there's a lot of people that are going to listen to this. They're going to go, what the hell is a game genie? And you know what? Look it up. Google it.
Yes. Yes, Google it. Use your internet for something more than trolling on Twitter.
We may not
Or
know who
exposing-
Vikingo was.
Or
we know-
exposing how dumb you actually are. That'd be a great.
I got to go with Mikey on that. We may not know who Vikingo is, but we know about game genies. Well, guys, that's going to bring us, we're at 9:28 right now, so that's going to bring us to the end of the show. I appreciate you guys so much being on here. This has been a lot of fun just talking wrestling.
We should do this more often. I love this stuff.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I think if you're, of course, this is pre-recorded, so it's not live. But if you guys like what you're seeing here, if you want to see more of this, let us know in the socials. Like, put it out there. Let us know the topics you'd like us to talk about. Of course, click all the things, because that's how we get to keep doing this. Is everybody clicks all the things, and I agree. We should do this more often because this is a lot of fun.
Sometimes people just want to talk wrestling.
That needs to be a shirt. Sometimes people just want to talk wrestling. Well, I'm going to throw it out there now. Big things coming up. You know, BCW, we got the whole commercial thing happening. So that's going to be awesome. Squared Circle Pro, the end of the year show is always the biggest. I'm looking forward to seeing that in November. We got big things happening all over the place. There's going to be a few big things coming up soon, early in next year for the podcast that I'll be telling y'all about as we get closer to it. It's going to be a lot of fun moving forward. We will be back here next week, same time, 8 p.m., Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you watch us. We are going to be there. I invite everybody to be there, be in the chat, be active, because that's what makes it fun. Until then, I'm Guapo. That's my, oh, wait, I got the timeout. I got given the timeout.
And we're going to have a few weeks of this pre-recorded stuff.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got it. I'll go ahead and, I was going to go with that next week, but I'll go ahead and say now we've got 2 more weeks of pre-recorded shows. So
got to get through October.
Yeah, we got to get through October because we've got Nightmare on 19th Street. If you're in the Lubbock area, by the way, if you haven't hit up Nightmare on 19th Street, you got to do it. It's awesome. You'll love every minute of it. So, but again, gentlemen, thank you. It's always a pleasure when you're on. I can't wait to have you on again and do this exact same thing. Until next Thursday, I'm Guapo.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's Mike Caldwell. That's Rick Elsie. We're not your average marks. We'll see y'all next Thursday. Yeah.
I'm gonna drink it all away and find my head right.